All right, kitty cats. Meow meow. I don't know why I do that. I started doing it at some point and I decided it's just going to be what I do. Just like a intro tagline thing. I also think at some point, I don't know, I need to get more of a scheduled, structured thing because I want to do some of these at night where different people can come and play. What up, Mark? And and a little bit of a different structure. Like I probably won't drop the link in those. Hezzy, yes. And I'll probably just send out the invite to. This will be the place for coming out, coming out of the lurk, breaking the fourth wall, coming on screen, which I recommend people to do. It's a great time. But these other things will be for more like structured conversation thing. You'll have. Nice to see you, buddy. All right. I want to play a few clips here because you know what popped up on my old algo was Mark Lefebvre's conversation with Matthieu Pageau. And I said, look at that. That's fun, Congratulations, Mark. It's always fun to talk to Matthieu. I feel like he's pretty great. I haven't gone deeply into him and even Pageau for that matter. Like I like those guys. I think they're I think a lot of stuff they say is really wonderful. But because of what I'm going to talk about tonight, today, this morning, and because of what Matthieu and Mark say in this video, where I'm going to play some clips, this is why. Because a huge aspect of personalist knowledge, which what I say is like personalist knowledge is the integration of all of Verbicki's 4 Ps, which is propositional, perspectival, participatory, and procedural. Like all those 4 Ps of knowledge. And Mark emphasizes participatory because that's true. Because something that Jonathan Pageau talks about is we don't really ever know anything apart from initiation, which means embodiment, which means participation, which means merely propositional knowledge, i.e. information, is not knowledge, at least in a way that I think a lot of religious frameworks would understand it. It is lived knowledge is real knowledge. And that will come up in a lot of this. They use a lot of illustrations about it. It's a huge point Pageau makes. And interestingly, it's something my dad would tell me my whole life growing up. Because my dad had a lot of real knowledge. He called it common sense. And he would lament because a couple of things that he did. He was an iron worker. He was a connector, building power plants out in Wyoming. And then he was a welder for a number of years. And then he was a contractor. He did construction to pay for the cattle ranch. And there was a lot of cattle ranch. So he did all those different jobs his whole life, still does a lot of construction stuff, not working on the ranch anymore. As an old man, he's still just working away. And he would always talk about common sense. And sometimes when there's a few houses that we built where he'd have to interact with engineers. And he would get frustrated with engineers and this was kind of his point, is he would say, you have all this knowledge, but you don't know how it works. You don't know how it works in the real world. He'd just be like, how many of these engineers have actually been on a job site and swung a hammer, built something? So like you think you're looking at these numbers and graphs and diagrams and some physics and you went to school. And so like this works on paper, but will it work in the real world? And he called that common sense. And that was one of the things that he was often lamenting in my growing up, is like the world that's lacking in common sense, which in a sense is lived reality. All right, so let's play a few clips. I'm going to do some commentary on it. And there's a fair amount of I have timestamps. Look at this. Such a big boy, grown up, and I have notes and structure. We're going to play some clips. And then I'm going to talk about it a little bit in that, and then I'll open it up and we can chat about it. And I would just put this out here. This is a criticism that I've gotten in my live streams, is I open it up. Meow, meow. Hello, kitty cats. I did say kitty cats, but I didn't do a meow meow. One of the criticisms that I've gotten, and it's a recurrent criticism, so I'm trying to get better at it, is that I'm influenced by Peter Rollins. I don't do structure well. And I think off the top of the dome, the old skull cap. I think ahead of my head, Luke Bingo. I go off script. I like to play in the realm of the emergent, the fringe, the vanguard, the becoming. That's what interests me, is like beyond the horizon. God is that which always lies just beyond the limit of what we already seem to know. Clem Snide. There you go. Another Luke Bingo. Quoting Clem Snide. Eve Barsley. But when I open it up and people come on, I'd like us to talk about personalist knowledge and religion. Yeah. My arm's disconnected from my body. So I don't want to go off the rails. And part of that is because what tends to happen when we go off the rails, and I guess I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth because I'm talking about not being on rails. And I mean that figuratively and actually, is that you get beholden to powers and principalities. And Matthieu talks about this brilliantly in one of the clips we're going to play about virality and the algorithm and what's trending and 2-week memory, and how a lot of that is just being it's being used against you. Like if you're paying attention to what headlines think you need to be paying attention to largely, and probably honestly, if you're on Twitter a lot, you are being possessed. That's what I would argue. But let's let Matthieu talk about it. But we're going to start with just some personalism, some language, some propositional tyranny stuff. So let's share screen. Let's do the first thing here. I believe this is the first. Here we go. It is. Are we working? Let's make it big. Let's check our levels. I think we're fine. Yeah. All right. Let's go. Play.
In the world. So you have this flood of propositions, of words, of systems, right? And because you have these propositions and they need to be closely defined, we'll say to convey coherent meaning, what ends up happening is...
Okay, I'm already interrupting because I didn't. This is my third time through listening to it, but words don't convey meaning. Words awaken meaning. George MacDonald. See Malcolm Geit's lecture on George MacDonald's imagination essay. But Mark will essentially say that later, so I think Mark knows that. But anyhow, because the conveyance is like information economy stuff. You're thinking of transactional conveyance of words as static objects, which is not real. Okay, back to what they're saying.
Not only do you get what John Vervaeke calls the propositional tyranny, but the propositional tyranny leads directly into the procedural tyranny. And that's where you get fundamentalism and legalism, which are kind of related forms, I think. And that's sort of the problem, is we have a bunch of people who know a bunch of words, but they don't know how to put them together. That's technically comprehension. Of course, I have a video on the flood of literacy, right? And the lack of comprehension. And I think that's the real struggle. Like everybody talks about these other struggles, the meta crisis, the meaning crisis, and fair enough, I talk about the intimacy crisis. But fundamentally, those crises are the inability for us to put things together into patterns using symbolism, right, which is much deeper than mere propositions. And so I wanted to get your thoughts on that sort of set of ideas, on that thesis.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, first of all. You asked me a long time ago, and I always can't do. I decided suddenly to do a bunch of podcasts, so it's like this time you asked me at a time where I was deciding to do this. So I did like 5 or so in the last couple of weeks. I don't know what took me over there. But yeah, I guess because I know I'm going to stop soon. I'm going to, like, when it gets cold, I just kind of disappear. So that I kind of decided maybe I should do a few. So thanks for having me. Yeah, what do I think of what you said? Well, I agree. 100% with what you said, that real knowledge is not logic or propositions, as you say. That's the perfect word, by the way. In my opinion, that's the perfect word for what's going on. Propositional knowledge, it's not real knowledge, in my opinion. I don't think we use the word knowledge in the same way, which is fine. To me, knowledge is when you have this, the symbolism. I think you use knowledge in the sense of just propositions. Am I correct when I say that?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, I'm in the middle of the fight, right? And
Okay.
so one of the things I say, so a lot of our work came directly from Dr. John Vervaeke, and he was talking about what I found the most fascinating way to talk about this whole problem, which he totally misses at some level, long before the propositional theory.
Okay. Vervaeke misses things. I'm just doing this for Matthieu, if Matthieu ever watches this, because he's into MMA, so he should know what this means right now. Okay, we're going back. Sorry, that's just an interruption for Matthieu.
Tyranny quote that he came up with, that when I heard that, I was like, oh, it's right, but it's not right enough. Like there's something not right about that, but it's not wrong. It's not, there is a propositional tyranny. But before that, he used to talk about participatory knowledge. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. Like that's the only form of knowledge. What are you talking? There's no other type of knowledge. It's right in the Bible, right? Like you wrestle with somebody, you wrangle with somebody, you live with somebody, that person. But but that's not just for people. It's just people. I think people are probably the hardest thing to know. Just an intuition I have, really, because maybe they're the most complex or something. I don't know. It's just a guess. So you end up with this. He's got his 4 P's of knowledge, and our thesis was that his 4 P's are actually incorrect. So we swapped out the perspectival knowledge, which I don't think is at all, and we named them all information, because that's actually what he's describing, information, and calling it knowledge. And then we substituted that for the poetic, and the poetic in our conception, and of course I'll link the Knowledge Engine video here. A poetic is how you understand symbolism, how you understand and navigate. So we sort of broke the 4 out into, propositions are, more like objects. They're solid. They're pointed to. They're more concrete, right? And then procedures are more like a navigation. It's how you order or sequence or deal with propositions. But then on the other side, you've got participation, and the way you navigate participation is through poetics, roughly speaking. Okay. We used to call it the parabolic. The first version of the knowledge engine, we call it the parabolic. Parabolic and poetic. We just kind of labeled it differently. So the reason why I use knowledge is because that's how everybody conceives of this. And then I try to say that that's not actually knowledge. It's really just information, which is a much more interesting topic, right? So that's where I'm at with my message.
So we're using the word knowledge in the same way. I just want to make sure, because not many people use the word knowledge in that way, actually. So I wasn't sure. I just wanted to make sure, because to me, knowledge is what you call participatory. That is what it is to me. Real knowledge is participatory, and it's when you have embodied experiences of patterns. That's knowledge. So
okay, embodied experience of patterns is knowledge. So ideas about things is not knowledge. Information is not knowledge. Embodied experience of patterns is knowledge. It has to be incarnate. You have to take the knowledge and incarnate it for it to be real. What is not assumed is not redeemed. All right, onward.
Either you're in contact with them, or they're in you, or it's even better when they're in you. Obviously, it's even closer, stronger knowledge, but even just being part of something that is an expression of a pattern, because you're in it. To me, that is, like you said, that is the only real knowledge. Is that everything else is, you use the perfect words here. Information, propositions is a good way to say it too. So I agree, and I think one of the problems that happens with that, with the just having information language, just talking about words, we could say, is that there's a weird confusion that happens. This is what my experience, where people think they're using just words, but they're actually not. and they're actually talking from their experience, and they're assuming that everyone, their word is the same as mine, because there's this little step that I'm skipping.
This is very good. This is part of why the lightsaber of what do you mean by that, and Chad's The God of Your Own Understanding, which is from AA, is so important, because people think they're using just words and they're not. They're speaking from their experience. This is the myth and the magic spell that we're under of modernity, is we think we're using words and definitions and we're not. You're really talking from your experience. You really are. Back.
Which is my experience of reality, and I expect you to have the same experience as me, but you don't. So it's like I'm using words assuming that you have my same shared experience, and this is a big problem that I see. And I think most arguments going on right now, just people arguing, I mean, just in general, it's everywhere now. It's all about arguing with everyone. I'm annoyed by it, actually. This is the biggest problem. Like, people are not even using the same words with the same meaning, and they're just arguing with each other, or they're agreeing. So it's like you can't win when you do that, because either you agree on false words or you argue on false words.
Here you go. That's true. This has come up a lot in the corner. We've been talking about this. Words dividing. This is something Sherry will say, or arguing about just words. I posted something about this recently. But like, the problem is you're speaking past each other. And this is what I mean, is like nobody really disagrees. Or when I have the stream of like true disagreement is divorce. It's separation. If you actually disagree, you can't have communion. You can't keep to engage. If you keep engaging, you have implicit agreement, tacit agreement on something. You just might not know what it is. It's some kind of mystical agreement, Peter Rollins would say, around a common lack, but you can't really disagree. And that's why this is what's so, it's part of my struggle with confessionalism, and why I ended up where I was, is because I was just like, and why many times arguments about words is really frustrating. I was just having this conversation with my son. He was saying this the other day. Most of us know this intuitively, is that most disagreements are not really about the words that people are talking about. It's something else. And Matthieu will talk about this later brilliantly. Where does he say it? Somewhere. I think I timestamped it. Is that it's actually, which when they're talking about math, I think it'll be coming up in a little bit, that like you can actually have conversations about words and high level concepts and words. He'll say it really good later, but it's hard. It's really hard. And very few people, I think, are even capable of it. Let's keep talking. Let's keep playing.
Lose situation. I mean, it's not good. So, but then if you want to use just words, and you really do want to do the just information part, well, then you're like in mathematics right there. You're at a really high level.
Right there. Sorry. Words, just words. It's like almost just pure math at that point, or it's like math. If that's, and you want to talk there, which I think is possible, it's extremely hard. It's part of it is like one of Jordan Peterson's big five, probably. It's a high end openness, interest in ideas, intellect, what he used to call intellect, or maybe now they changed it to like aesthetics or something like that.
Level of reading. If you want to use just words, and you really do want to do the just information part, well, then you're like in mathematics right there. You're at a really high level of reason that not most people have, to be honest. It takes a training to do that, to actually have words and then derive things from it, and like in logical way, not just an intuitive, vague way. And not many people do have that.
Matthieu, just, if you're going to talk about me, just talk about me. Like, if you're going to just do words in a logical way, not just a vague, intuitive, wooey way, okay? Just say my name, okay?
And there's a reason why fields as precise as mathematics are limited to things like numbers, right?
Yes.
Because with numbers, you can easily do this deduction type reasoning, which is real deduction, because numbers are simple things comparatively to things that are in nature, let's say. So you can use this reason. And then in other fields of science where things have been really, really defined and experimented with, such as physics, let's say, and chemistry, maybe. Then you can also use this kind of deduction a little bit. I think it's a mistake still, but I mean, you could still do it in a way that it's not just people arguing on nonsense, right? You could talk about real things still. But when we talk about anything else in life or nature or in society, we use these words. We assume people have the same meaning, and they almost never do. And it ends up being a big waste of time. This is my feeling about it. Yeah, that's my, if I sum up what I think about it.
I couldn't possibly agree more. I mean, I wonder if somehow, like, we were separated at birth. It's exactly how I think about it. Yeah, it's so clear to me. So I'm terrible at math. Like, I can't multiply and divide in my head. There are very good reasons. Well, maybe not good reasons. Very stupid child reasons for that. And
aren't you?
But I'm into computer.
Yeah, I was gonna say, aren't you? Don't.
Okay, this is the biggest clip we're gonna play right now. They talk about programming and math, and I don't know. I might fast forward through it, and then I have one more clip after this that's 5 minutes, because there's just, you know, some big sections. Mark is like me. He likes to, you know, he can go. You put a quarter in that guy, and he just can talk for a while, you know.
What you do, programming?
I'm a software engineer. I know.
But you're not good at math. That's funny.
You know, I'm terrible at math.
Okay.
In my head. But if you want to talk about, you know, we'll say we could talk about the mathematical impact of the Fourier transform and why it's important to information theory and computers. And I can do that because it doesn't, like, I have an intuitive sense of the math. I just can't do the math in my head. And the thing for me was, well, the computer does the math. Why do I need to do it? So it turned out to be a perfect marriage to some extent for me. Was I can't do the math in my head, but I can type it into the computer really well, and then the computer can give me the answer. Now I don't need that, but I know the conceptual part of the math, and the computer doesn't know anything about the conceptual part of the math. It has to be given. So some of what you're talking about, I sort of frame as, and I have a video about this, which of course I'll link here if I can remember, which is all about
check it out.
Words don't contain meaning. Meaning is a function of the content of the word, which is a definition, and almost knowing.
Listen, this part's really good. It is. Okay. The words in and of themselves don't have meaning. It's related to content. This part, I never have exactly, I mean, I've said stuff like this before, but I think Mark explains it really well. I'm going to back it up just a little bit.
Meaning is all about words don't contain meaning. Meaning is a function of the content of the word, which is a definition, and almost no English words have a single definition.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little weird, right? Plus the context of the word. And that context isn't merely other words or other words and positions in paragraphs or other sentences or paragraphs or titles of books, right? It's also experiential. And the for me, the sort of pernicious or dangerous part is people don't really understand. A good author will impart their experience with set and setting, it's called in writing, right? So they'll impart experience in set and setting or invoke common experience. And that will become part of the thing, of the context that makes the words have meaning. And that's why you can read a horror. And people usually don't do this, but you can actually lift sentences and whole paragraphs out of horror novels, right? And match them up with paragraphs and sentences in fantasy or science fiction or romance or mystery, and they're almost identical, but the meaning of those terms is very different because the context, which is part of set and setting, is part of the context setting in literature, right? The context is completely different, and so the actual words end up having a totally different impact on you, and allowing you to make different connections in the world. And for me, the symbolism is all about making the connections.
Yeah.
Boom. We did it. Look at that. We did it. A whole clip. We did a whole clip. I think that's the longer one. I believe so. That was like 11 minutes with some of my commentary. So now we got one more clip we're going to do from Mark and Matthieu. Never sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. When you hear a French person actually pronounce a word really well. So I don't know if they'll watch this, but oh shoot, why am I blanking on your name right now? he did a Nathan Filbert. Yeah, he did a relatively recent, a few weeks ago, randos with PVK. But he mentioned the podcast Weird Studies, which Jason Schweizer, Almond Tree, is also a fan of. And I would love mainly JF Martel. The other guy's great too. But JF Martel, I think, is just brilliant. Love that dude from Weird Studies. And but anyhow, he's also French Canadian. But I mean, he has no accent because he learned English pretty young. And every once in a while, he'll pronounce a French word with a French accent. I'm just like, that's just so ridiculous. How it's awesome, but I can't do that. All right, let's share a different screen. I would love to. But we're also gonna play a Sam clip because I saw this little clip from Sam 5 years ago, I think, talking to PVK about estuaries and conferences and things. It was after Thunder Bay, the Thunder Buffet, and before Midwestuary, blah, blah, blah. And I thought it was a good little clip. So I'm just going to play it just because I saw it on the PVK, nonstop live stream thing. Okay, let's play this one. This is about 5 minutes. Here we go.
But what can we do? That's always the question, though. What can we do? I don't know. The only thing I think we can do is, what I'm doing anyway for myself is just to go back to reality. I keep saying that over and over again, but it's like, go back to reality. Foods doesn't come from the supermarket. It comes from the ground.
Snap back to reality. Oops, it goes gravity. Oopsie so rabbity.
Things like that. It sounds so dumb, but it's because your mind changes when you see reality a little bit. It's like things come from the work of people. It doesn't come from. That's one of the problems with the internet. It created this big giant superstructure, and this thing is not connected to reality as much as it should be. It's like, I don't even know. It made it so that a bunch of people are living in this world, this kind of virtual world. We could say that's what it is, literally. Kind of like a little bit like the Matrix. Basically, it's like this virtual world where people are now living in it. They're in it always, and because.
Okay, all you TLC haters, this is what he's talking about. If you live exclusively in the virtual world and you don't actually embody and incarnate and create and procreate, bad. But if this can be generative, which, I'm foreshadowing to the Sam conversation about creating culture and religio and internet culture and trampling down the algorithm by the algorithm, contra virality, it's coming. All right, let's go.
It's because they get successful on it. You see what I'm saying? It's a place to be successful. It works. So why wouldn't you go? It makes sense. I mean, it's not like a ridiculous thing that people are doing. They're doing what they should do, in the sense that people want to succeed in life, which is normal. So they go in the place where now it's happening. This is where it's happening. But I don't see really that as so good, because this looks like it's almost like creating another world. That's not nature. That's not reality. It's not the world God created. It's the world men created. Right. And we can kind of see that it's not so great. It's like, you want to get into a fight, go on Twitter. You want to get this is what it is. I mean, if I want to get into a fight in the real world, it's kind of hard. It's going to be hard to get into a real fight. I'm going to have to go around, find some drunk guy or something, go to a bar maybe, that's where I can get into a fight. Otherwise, how do I get into a fight in the real world? Even a verbal fight. I mean, even that, it's like, doesn't really happen that much. You talk to someone, you don't get into an argument all the time, But if you want to get into a fight, go on the internet. There you go. Boom. You can have 1,000 fights in a day if you want.
Listen, and I will. And you guys will in the comments, because you'll fight. Because of what is it? What's the man's search for meaning? The Viktor Frankl quote. And this relates to Peter Rollin and jouissance, because like when man lacks meaning, he'll medicate with pleasure, and even the pleasure of fighting. Like, I got to feel real. Fight Club. Why did they go to Fight Club and beat the shit out of each other? Because they want to feel alive. Because their life lacked meaning. So they went to feel pain. Why do people cut themselves? To feel pain, to make me feel alive. This is like the emo stuff. So sometimes people fight virtually so that their life, to distract themselves from the fact their life has no meaning, that they're not embodying, that they're not incarnating, that they're not doing what they should do. This is what happens. So pay attention to Twitter and streaming and what's trending and virality, because it could be, I would say it is demons manifesting in like a that hideous strength way through algorithms and systems to distract you from what you should probably be paying attention to. And that all happens via what I would call Christian. This is the contrast of Christian YouTube versus what I think TLC is. And TLC could become Christian YouTube, where we just get obsessed with politics and virality and trending rather than on relationships and person making and encouraging people to embody in their real life and not just get stuck in the metaverse virtual matrix. All right, here we go. Keep going.
Because there's something wrong with it. There's something missing in that space. There's something. Well, I think what's missing is reality. That's what's missing, really.
Yeah.
It's this weird ethereal thing where nothing matters and everything matters at the same time. And it's like
At the same time. Yeah.
This event happens and now everyone's talking about it. Okay, how do they say that? It's trending. Yeah, it's trending. Okay. Next week it won't be. So why should I care? But you see, if you want to enter into that space, then you do have to care. You do have to care. So then you have to talk about what's trending. If you want to, let's say.
Okay, do you? This is medium as the message stuff, but it's contrasted with Christologic, right? Or what McLuhan said, that Jesus Christ, and I would say the whole mystery of Christ in me, is where the medium and the message are one. So where Christ can manifest, I become all things to all people, that for the sake of Christ I may win some. And just, if Christ triggers you, say reality. Same thing to me. So do you have to enter into the trending? And again, this is Christologic of identity and non-identity. I think it's true what he's saying. If you enter into the trending and the virality, you're going to get caught up. You can get caught up in the whirlwind of that, which is to distract you from actually embodying and to get caught up in online fights that don't actually matter. Do not have endless debates about words that don't matter. There's multiple verses about this kind of thing in the scriptures, both in the Jewish and in the Christian scriptures. So don't get caught up in fights about that, but that's a lot of what Twitter is. So I think simultaneously you can do both things. This is like the movie Silence, of both priests that do opposite things, and I think both of them were being Christian. Is you could choose to enter into the virality of Christian YouTube, Twitter fights, and manifest Christ there. I don't think you can behave in a way that isn't as Christ would behave, which is to get caught up in the fights, but you could go in there and embody a better way in that medium. You could also choose to avoid that and create a different kind of culture, which is, again, foreshadowing to Sam's little talk with PVK. Let's let him finish this out. We have just a couple more minutes. Disagree about Silence. Love the book. Read it 3 times. I've watched the movie about 4. It's fantastic. We could talk about that separately.
Be seen or, let's say, successful in the space of the internet. You got to play the game of the trending. I'm not even judging it. I'm just describing this thing happening, and it's not so great. So I think there's some manipulation going on too by the powers that be. There's some manipulation of using this idea of trending and using this idea of viral. It's not really viral when it happens on a platform controlled by algorithms and people. It's not viral. They decide what's viral, because it's a nice, interesting way to make people think that it comes from us, comes from the people. When something goes viral, this is why they called it like that, viral, because it means it's not part of the system. If it's viral, then it's not the system.
That's right.
But I disagree. It is the system. It's making things go viral on purpose and to give the impression that this is organic. most of the time it's not. I'm sure there are some real viral things that happen on the internet. I'm sure it does happen, but there's also manipulation of this concept of viral and this concept of trending. And I think I see a lot of that going on right now. So it's like you got to put your feet on the ground. Sometimes, you got to get away from this nonsense. Otherwise, you get manipulated by all these systems. I'm not sure what it's leading to, but I see there's lots of manipulations going on. So that's because it goes with your propositional thing. It's all about information, not connected to reality. It's like people argue about information now. It's like we're not arguing about what's real and what's not. It's like because when you do some real things, you can only argue so far. Because we're both doing this.
This point is true, and this is something that people will love. I know, Rod, if you're still here, you'll love this. And this goes back to what he was talking about, Pageau was talking about, is that to have actual disagreements about words is very, very hard. I think it's incredibly hard, and very few people can do it, especially do it well. And so when you're arguing about words, you're not talking about the same things, because you're in this information medium, and it's contextless because it's not embodied. And this is why he said, when you're actually embodied, when you're doing things, when you're on a building project together, let's say like you're fixing a car, you can disagree about stuff, but only to a degree, because it's grounded in reality. You can just be like, this is a bolt, or you could just be like, no, it's a wrench. You'll figure it out eventually, because it only does one thing, because it's a real embodied thing. When you're actually building stuff together in the real world, or like even, and this is, you'll know them by their fruit a little bit. Parenting, you could disagree about parenting all day, but then you look at the fruits of it. And this, I was having a conversation in a group chat with some folks, in the TLC. And the other day I was talking about a few parenting examples that I don't talk about on live streams because they're too personal, they're too private, and it's just not appropriate to share on a live stream. And there were some people who were saying, like, I would not have done that. And I did the very annoying thing that people do, but I don't know how to avoid it, where it was just like, I get it. I understand what you're saying. Before I had children of my age, or before I had children, I was in that idealistic mode of like, I wouldn't do that. Because you're in a mode of idealism, which again isn't real. It's not embodied. You haven't lived it yet. And the point is to live everything, Rilke. And so like when you get to a point, we do this with other people. We fight with other people, but we fight with ourselves, our own maps. And this is right brain, left brain stuff. We have maps and understandings of what we think things should do. But then when we actually have to embody that and live that, we realize, well, that map is maybe faulty because it's not working. And okay, pause. Someone has a comment. My son said he's the fruit, so stay tuned. We'll see if I'm a good parent or not. All right. Anyhow, you get the point. Let's go back to Matthieu. Let's let him finish it out, and we'll open it up.
Same thing in real life. You can only argue so far, because we're both doing the same thing in real life. We both face with the same obstacles and the same reality and the same results, or close at least. So you can argue a little bit with the guy who's doing the same thing as you in real life, but not really. You'll probably help each other out at one point. Right. This person did the same thing as me, but did a little bit differently, and maybe he did better than me. I can learn from him. But when you're just in the ether of the internet, then there's no bounds to the arguments that people have. It's like, wow, just words and fighting about words.
Contraire.
Yeah. So
au contraire, Matthieu and Mark. I know Mark is down on TLC somewhat, but I would disagree. We have the TLC at its best is personalist internet. It's personalist community. It's not mere disagreement and virality and chaos. It's rooted in increasingly embodied relationship. We have many different bodies. We have conferences where we meet together. It's not the fullness. Of course it's not the fullness, because the most intimate human fullness of embodiment and incarnation is a family. It's procreation. But that can manifest, but like variants of that and degrees of that can manifest everywhere and should. You know, that God is all in all. All right. He's almost done, and then we're gonna play the Sam clip, and I'll open it.
Right.
It's hard to, it's hard to know what to do, frankly, about that. I mean, I know what to do for me, but
Right.
if someone asks me what should I do, I don't know what to tell you. It's like, try to make a garden or something. It's always goes down to that. Make yourself a garden, grow some vegetables or something, some flowers. Then you'll see real things, you know. Then go talk to your neighbor. Maybe he's also growing stuff. Maybe he'll have something to tell you that you can actually do something with. You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
Or
All right. That's it. That's all we're doing. Thank you. So that's good. That's all I've seen basically in the video, maybe a little bit more. It's good. Check it out. Spit out the bones. Skip the parts you don't like, or maybe listen to the parts you don't like and challenge yourself, you know? Maybe you don't like what you should like. Who knows? We'll see. Why? I was trying to correct my artifice mistype. All right. Let's play this last little section. It's not very long, of old Sammer. And look at young Sam. Look at a little baby. Look at a little baby, Sam. Look at you, little baby.
I'm not just here to say, oh, we just need to grow faster and we need to be concerned about numbers and stuff like that. I think some people interpreted me as saying that, and that's not what I'm saying. I think that you are right, and Joey said something similar, that really what we have to offer is a culture that we have helped foster and develop. Part of that is that we select
internet culture. We'll talk about culture, cult, religio, that which binds, that which holds any body together, even corporate bodies, right? All culture is downstream of cult. Ritualized practice, participatory knowing, personalism.
Selected for a group of people that kind of already had a bunch of those traits, because it took a certain kind of person to get all the way to the Discord server. But also, I think that through our interactions, through your channel, through the conversations.
Okay. Pause. I'm just pausing because Sam's talking about this. Nico, man, this stuff just keeps going and going, yet we never arrive anywhere. Online, we can't. What do you want, Nico? You want us to build? What do you want us to build online? Like within the physical world? It can't happen. But you can learn and play here and engage and then practice those things in your own life in a way. The TLC has helped me in a myriad of ways, and I'm very thankful for it. If this doesn't help you, don't be here then.
Through the other channels, we've embodied a culture that is spreading, right? People learn, people watch others, they see how others interact, and they start to imitate that consciously and unconsciously. But that is something that can only grow so quickly. A culture like that, yes, it can grow, yes, it can spread, but only at the speed of interpersonal transmission. And
a meaningful culture like that can only spread at the rate of interpersonal relating, knowing as you are known. Anything else, anything that's faster and virality, the information economy, it's not real. It's not embodied. It's not true knowledge. Ideology can spread fast, like fire, but not true knowledge, because it's embodied and it's knowing as you are known. It's knowing people. It's incarnate. It's embodied.
And that is limited. And if we try and accelerate faster than that, then we will be turning into something that we aren't currently now, right? Instead of spreading what we currently aren't now. And so but if we don't grow, then we'll become decadent, and slowly people drift away and sort of will be stuck with the hardest core of the hardest core. And that's not really even what the hardcore want anyway. And so that's what I'm saying. And I feel like when I've been hearing you talk about that, Shrey, it sounds more Sacramento-centric than what I...
Okay, now that's old. I mean, that's basically the clip. then they start talking about Estuary and Sacramento, and this is before we had anything close to what we have now, which is larger estuaries and stuff. But we're, you know, I feel like there was one more thing I want to say, then I'll open it up. Or maybe I should open it up and then say the last thing. So Jess, I don't know if you're here. You're probably too busy because you've been working a lot. But this is something that Jess and I were talking about separately. And where was it? It was from it's probably about Job. But it was about mechanism, Gerard, and scapegoating. I actually think it was the Ian McGilchrist. I think it's from the Ian McGilchrist, Dr. Chris E. W. Green conversation with Karen on the meaning code. And again, watch that. Like, screw virality, screw whatever's happening in the news. That conversation is money. It's good money. It's mammon. Make friends by mammon. Because what they talked about in there is that anytime any meaningful thing happens that is transformative and useful and good, immediately the opportunity to use it as a transactionalism mechanism to get the same result pops up. That's the Christ Antichrist phenomenon. So in Gerard's example, he said that sacrifice was a means of grace given by God to stop violence, not the modernist myth of like new atheists, that religious violence, that we got violence from religion. It was the inverse. There was violence everywhere. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. And we decided to put all that corporate collective violence on a scapegoat, that it's better that the one may die for the many, to quote Jesus. And that's what religious violence was, as a scapegoat, as a sacrifice. But then you can turn that very thing into Antichrist. Then you can say, well, sacrifice is what God desires, but your sacrifices become repugnant to me, like they burn my nostrils, like they're disgusting to me, because if you don't sacrifice with the correct heart, it's bastardized. We can bastardize anything. And but this happens all the time. So now, to Sam's point, like, of becoming decadent, I will just say the TLC is a good thing that emerged out of the internet and internet community, and we were existing contrary to the algorithms and to virality. But then very quickly, that thing that emerged can be co-opted and become the Antichrist. And it will. It absolutely will at times. And there will be people that do that. But woe to them by whom that happens. All right. Did I put the link out? I did not. I need to put the link out. I need to... okay, ground rules. Here's the ground rules for people that come in. No name calling. No talking over each other. And for today, since I said it early, let's keep it on personalist knowledge and culture and religio, and not talk about other things, religio. Let's not go off on whatever other subjects you may happen to talk about, or I'll have to redirect, All right, I'm pinning it. Feel free to come in. Let's talk about it. Let's break the fourth wall. If you've never been on stream, come on stream. Come and play. Yeah, meet your new iron-fisted dictator, Luke, who is, laying down some ground rules. Because I don't want to fight. Is this okay? Let me see a video. I see someone. Ira? Is that who we have here?
That's me.
Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Welcome. Introduce yourself. Who are you? How long have you been following along? What do you know about TLC? All that stuff.
I gotta turn something.
Okay, yeah. Do some tech stuff. Alan, talk to us. Look at that. Do you dye your goatee? Because it is nice.
You know how to butter me up. You're using your words against me.
Oh, I know.
But or to connect. Yeah, I'm a big fan of and been chewing on the idea of like that you brought up of you can't really disagree. And I think there are a lot of layers to that. Of like, I think the first layer that's like the most obvious is like any sports team, even if they have a rivalry, they need each other. Like you can't play basketball with just one team. So it's like
Yeah.
they have to have some fundamental, even though, oh, I'm stopping their goals and they're stopping my goals. I want to score, they don't want me to score. They want to score, I don't want them to score. There's a underlying, well, we're gonna play basketball. I'm not gonna take a knife out and knife the other guy, even if he's my opponent. And so like it's just obvious. And I think that applies pretty directly to just words of like if you're actually engaging with another person, like there's an underlying like you're not just covering your ears when they're speaking, you're actually like taking in what they're saying and responding to what they're saying. And so you're agreeing like, well, I'll actually think about what you're saying and try and comprehend it and find like a way in which I can, even if I'm trying to change your thought, I'm like, how can I take what you're thinking and put it to you in a way that you'll be more aligned with what I'm thinking? Oh, you're this political party type of person. Well, really, wouldn't it be better if you were my type of political party person because you'd be more happy there? So you're already saying like, why? Okay, I need to figure out a way to make you more happy on my side than on the side you're currently on. So you're
Yeah.
agreeing like to that level. And like you said with the wrench example of like, you're only going to do it for so long before it's just like, okay, well, we need to either agree, is this a wrench or a screwdriver? And we have to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just, we think of these like oppositions, but you're always in conversation, you're always in dialogue, you're always, um, having a back and forth. And it also then gets into like, be careful with whom you fight with, because you're going to have a dialogue with that person and you're both going to be transformed by the encounter.
Yeah, totally. That's the inherent religio that I was talking about. Because like a religio is just a binding. So it's a body. So when you are in dialogos, when you're dialoguing, when you're together, you're a body. So where two or more are
Yeah.
gathered doing something. So there has to be, that's the agreement. You're having
Yeah.
propositional disagreement, but that's the whole point of like propositions are not knowledge in and of themselves. The more fundamental agreement is the conversation. Also,
Yeah.
Paul, I wanted to address Paul's points, and then I want to talk to Ira and see what he's up to, and then engage our other friends. So PVK said the progress via online isn't easily visible online, and this is like the criticism that Nico was having. Is like, what are we doing? We're just saying the same stuff all the time. But PVK said like, that's part of my point. Like, Alan has a girlfriend. That's progress. Now you have a girlfriend? Is it because of TLC?
Yeah, only because honestly, I had never spoken to a woman before TLC. So not even my mother. We had a strict sort of basic sign language only. So now I have the confidence. I feel like I could have 10 girlfriends, but apparently
That's
the Bible's
right.
against that, but I don't know.
Listen,
I'm
that's
figuring
the
it out.
progress down the road. Yeah, you'll have 10 pretty soon. You keep this up, you'll have 10 girlfriends. And then PVK says part of the TLC is when people disappear, like Job. He has 2 kids, a church, a life, is hardly online with us anymore because he doesn't need it. He doesn't want to do this. He's busy. It's also Cassidy and Faraday. That's another example. There's many people that have gotten married and have kids, Shelly and Nathan. A lot of my really best friends from early on in this whole thing don't really participate here anymore online because they're very busy. And I only do what I do when I do it. And largely then I just disappear and listen because I got a lot of shit going on, I mean, that's so like when people are like, this is just thinky talking, it's not about embodiment. I don't know. Maybe it is for you. It's definitely not for me. I'm learning things and then embodying them when I'm not doing this. So, anyhow, Ira.
Ira. Well,
Okay.
Ira, can you hear me good? Well,
I can.
Ira here, but I live in France, and they always call me Ira. So
Okay.
it's whatever you want. Just to say, I'm not exactly the coming out of the lurk. I was there for like Paul's first thing on from years ago.
Nice.
Was on a couple of times with Karen. So follow her a lot, and
Okay.
And I would say is just from some of the comments, if you do follow all you people who I feel like I kind of know, even though not personally, obviously,
Yeah.
you learn a lot. And things like having girlfriends or wives, trying to explain a wife, why do we disagree about so many things? And say, we have different worldviews here. You see this, I see that. I mean, it's amazing how all these conversation points that can seem esoteric are really grounded in the reality of relationships. And just to bring it back in brief to where you opened with your father, I was years ago an engineering professor, and I used to keep trying to tell my students, I almost all the engineering professors I knew had no real experience designing things. They came straight out of grad school, and then, I did work as an engineer for a little bit, but even myself realized missing that. And I would tell them that real good engineering is a humanity. You have a relationship with the people who build the thing that you want to design, and you have a relationship with the people who are going to use your design.
Yeah.
And we all know the things that were not designed by people who cared about the people using it, for sure. We've all had that one. So anyway, just to say is to, I'm retired now, so I can, in the middle of the day, I can maybe catch you a little bit. I was thinking once before to come out, and it was the time you had Jacob came on, I think it was Jacob, and you guys got in such a huge argument. I didn't want to get in the middle of that. So
I probably know the one you were talking about.
yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, just to say, keep
Nice.
on going. There's a lot of us, I assume a lot of us, people like me around. So
nice. Well, thank you. That's great. It's nice to have, you got to keep things in the 4-to-1, 12-to-1 relationship ratio that Peterson talks about, of an affirmation. I need affirmations along with the, like, what are you doing? This is a complete waste of time. You're a loser and you should stop talking about everything.
Well, you're pretty funny too. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a, I don't know. And that's the thing too, really. Like, I'm a fairly emotional, high neuroticism guy for a male. I am, but increasingly as I get older and as my embodied life is busier and more full, like an online argument, disagreement, like it'll maybe mess with me for a little while, but not really. Like I've learned, like this is not, like I don't know you. The people that really know me that are close to my life, like I have great relationships with, and it's fine. So like somebody who's mad at me online, I'm like, okay, I guess. Hopefully it doesn't ruin your day. It's not going to ruin mine. So. All right. What's up? I'm sorry. I forgot your name. Frells. What's
Matt?
How are you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. Good morning. How are you guys? What's up, Alan? What's up, Ira?
Great name. What's going on?
Beanie gang. Yeah. So I wanted to add something positive about the boomers that we were saying last time.
Sure.
In addition to what you're talking about today with lived experience, I think that something that a lot of the boomer posting and boomer bashing that goes on online, they forget that the positive thing about the bootstrap meme is that these guys were incarnational, man. They were living reality. They were just out there finding out. So that's just one positive thing I wanted to add. But the first thing that popped into my head when you were talking about lived experience was, has anybody seen Captain Fantastic? The movie?
Dude, one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, it's so good. And I felt like it was getting churned out, I don't know, was it a year ago, 2 years ago, the scene about public school or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one scene where the son is super mad at the dad. He's like, hey, I don't know if it's not in the effing book, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh yeah, well that's definitely what's going on here. And I think that applies to what you guys are talking about.
Right. Or it's trampling down mere wordism or propositionalism by propositions. Like in this medium, how else do you want me to do that? That's just how it works, It's like, can you hear me? Maybe it's just you, Matt. Sorry, I don't know. But or what you just said, Captain Fantastic, that's an example of, I don't know anything if it's not in a book, which is, it's a very powerful scene at the end of that movie. But then
I lost the mic.
We can still hear you. You must not be able to hear us, I think. So anyhow, but then it made me think too, this book I read for book club once and had my son read because I thought it was powerful because it illustrates these things, is what's his name? Seawolf. Jack London wrote this book called Seawolf, which is basically about that. It's about this like kind of posh English guy who is very well read, very well educated, and then he's going on a charter to the New World, and he gets caught up in the shipwreck, and then he gets brought on board to this guy called the Seawolf, who's this kind of dictatorial, almost monster-like sea captain who just like puts him to work. And he's like, okay, you're going to be here, but you're going to work. And it's the whole book is the idea of the book is that this kid could know everything he has to know about boats, but he has no idea how to sail. You know, he doesn't know how to actually sail on a boat. It's it's what I was talking about with engineering or anything. Lived knowledge versus theoretical conceptual knowledge, map versus territory. And you need both, but he wrote it in a book, you know?
If you want to see a sense of it, the sense in we take engineering now as just applied mathematics. Well, there was really no applied mathematics and engineering till maybe the middle of the 19th century. So like everything before that was this kind of lived mathematics of geometry and other things.
Yeah.
People could build cathedrals and aqueducts and all this other stuff. And even most of the first steam engines, all that other stuff, was done by empirically, had an idea and then kept on working on it until they got designs that worked. And I don't know of any engineering until maybe really modern. You get maybe say atomic weapons coming from pure theory of quantum mechanics, where most of all I think all the theory and everything else came to explain what engineers were already doing.
Yeah.
So like a steam engine's working, and say, well, what's the work, power, interactions, or anything else like that was coming along later. And when you were talking about with kids, I mean, so often, even for myself, the idea with my daughter, we have too much phone, we have this, we have that, and the other thing. But I'm living with a particular wife, with a particular daughter, in a particular place, where her friends work a certain way, and all the things, the theoretical, just go out the window. It's like, well, how's that going to work? We're going to have a total war here for the next, until she moves out and she's an adult.
Right.
What is it? I mean, are we trying to improve things for her life when she's 30 years old, or her life tomorrow, or our lives in relation to hers? So that aspect of what we can say theoretically is correct versus just lived life in the reality of the things and growing things and seeing how they work is it's every day, every day.
Yeah, that's really well said. And it's probably, I just had this idea when you were saying this, but that's probably the biggest thing that will cure you of ideology is, get married and have children. Because you have ideas of how to raise children, and then have some and wait till they become teenagers and see if your ideology
It would be interesting. What's that couple, with the glasses? They're really funny.
Oh yeah,
this theoretical marriage. Now they're coming together in ways that certainly was different from me and my wife of trying to be ideologically on the same ground and trying to go forth. And a lot of people do. They have the same religion and the same other things is important. So many of us these days, that's what's the real world is not quite like that. Certainly the modern world. But you see how their theory is going to look back on it 20 years from now, when the kids are doing whatever they're doing, so. Yeah,
we'll see, I mean, it's so as you were talking about that, and you were even talking about engineering, I wanted to ask you this. So you were saying most of it was like geometry, building cathedrals, and then we had, we got to like abstract conceptual engineering. Do you think somehow those things work circularly, where you can get engineering then that becomes so abstract and conceptual that it's untethered? Like, what are the benefits and strengths and trade-offs?
Yeah. So there's one of the professors I was adjacent to, I didn't actually have him in the class, but he wrote this guy named Henry Petrowski wrote a book, To Engineer as Human, and so most of the great engineering achievements going through history were from failures, like that bridge in Washington State, the Como Narrows Bridge. I don't know if you've ever seen a video of that. Look up the Como Narrows Bridge. It's wild. it's vibrating like crazy until it collapsed, was they kept going, say, from the Brooklyn Bridge, this massive bridge that the Roeblings, were afraid is going to fail. So they did everything, this suspension bridge, and it's way over designed, so it'll be there forever. They're trying to optimize, until it collapsed. In that setting with the winds there in that particular valley, it started resonating and then collapsed. So they had to go back again and get the aerodynamics right and other things and make them heavier. So the one example that I had found was, as the West was opening up, going farther and farther away from known technology, many different techniques and they had to bridge rivers like crazy, and you start to get these truss bridges. And truss design is where you have a two-force members, they're called, and this is relatively easy thing to design. That's the earliest I could find was, say, the 1840s or 50s, where there was some mathematics that you could predict the stresses in these members, but still connecting them, and everything else was still going to be empirical. And people to do it. There's just so much of it. But so anyway, the way engineering is taught is mostly, again, the equations, and this gets a lot of kids. Well, it's been a while since I've been teaching, but it's a tough thing for them to sit through. When you try to get them like in designing things, then they don't have experience. So it's only a limited things they can really get done when they're in a university type setting. So trying to bridge that where they're getting experience, and then the experience also of succeeding and doing something worthwhile takes a lot of effort and it's tough. And I'm afraid most engineers don't get that, and most of them don't finish. Most of them, a lot of good engineers or good people with good potential, they'll go to Wall Street and do whatever. They got a good math background, go to management, do all kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that goes into the educational model a little bit. I mean, it's because like the old school apprenticeships, you're automatically connected. The theory and the lived reality and the practice is integrated. Automatically.
Yeah, it happens a lot less, I guess, now.
Yeah. Matt, what's coming up for you, buddy? You get your stuff figured out?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Cool. Yeah. So I don't know what happened. I totally lost the mic. I lost your. I couldn't hear you for whatever reason. But McLuhan's grandson, is it Andrew? Andrew McLuhan?
I don't know.
There's a Twitter account, and everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
Right. So kind of like you were saying, it was great, and I retweeted Mike Tyson theology. That's great.
Yeah.
So,
right.
It's so funny. Okay, we'll have some kids and you'll find out. Lived reality, incarnational. It's out there. So I had this idea, truth, reality, experience, and kind of what you were saying, like how you can find good ideas online, but then you've got to take them out and you've got to go apply them. You can't just have it in your head, right? So
right. Well, and I mean, it even applies. It's something. It's like I think of it applies to theology, it applies to philosophy, it applies to God, because you can have. This is why I say things like you can be right and be wrong, or be wrong and be right, because you can have all the correct ideas about philosophy, loving people, what it means to be a good person, but if you don't actually become that, if you don't enact that in the world, it's nothing. I mean, that's what St. Paul says in 1 Corinthians. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I'm nothing. It doesn't matter. It's just you have proper information, but that isn't proper knowledge. Proper knowledge is lived.
Right.
Be holy as I am holy.
And I wanted to see what you had to say more about what's in a word, and the word is a container, and the content within the word, and how people talk through each other and past each other, and how words just aren't enough, right? So that's such a fascinating idea. And I was just listening to a talk on that from an Orthodox guy, and it's just it's a big idea, and it's not. I don't think it's just semantics. I don't think it's just I misunderstood you. It's like, no, I'm living in a different world, man.
I think these days with the politics and everything else going on, I certainly myself, I don't have that many conversations about these things because I'm kind of isolated now. But they almost all could be. It's like I've seen a totally different world than you've seen, and recognizing what is your data. How many people died of COVID? 10 million. How many people were saved by the vaccine? I mean, well, my data is totally different. So
my lived COVID experience where I was in physical reality, Los Angeles at the time versus people somewhere else.
Yeah, well, all
beyond different.
And then the other one in the same vein that I use now, because I try to start the conversations where I see I'm going to disagree totally with somebody, because you could say our worldview or just our where we're getting our data is totally different. Something I first saw it through Peterson, but now I show people all the time is the basketball game where they say to count the
when the ball is bouncing
see
by
the grill, right? And just to say is like, look, your worldview, you see things. We're looking at the same things, but you're seeing different things than I am. That's why we're not agreeing, because we're talking about different things. Now you can get into the more, I would say, theoretical semantics of what Mark Lefebvre and Matthieu were talking about, but that to me is the basic. Is like, we're looking at the same thing, but what I'm registering is something is different than what you're registering. Until we resolve that part, we're certainly going to have a hard time. But getting together and what the reality actually is between us is in the relational part of that equation.
Do you think part of the struggle with that, though, is that we're all coming from this model, this ideology of objective reality, and so people think like, no, I'm just seeing objective reality, but then this person says, well, I'm just seeing objective reality, and they're like, and then but we're seeing different things.
Actually, I tried to write this. I tend to write stuff more than podcast things. So taking the seeing is believing was part of I grew up. That's seeing is believing. Pictures worth 1,000 words. That's the basic sense of understanding, being really grounded, understanding things. And now I say believing is seeing. What you believe in, that's what you're going to be seeing. The Democrats are terrible, or the Republicans are terrible, and that's the only thing I'm going to pick out about whatever's happening. Or
you do what the screen says.
Yeah.
Right.
So
the cases are surging, therefore the lines at the clinic reflect that, or something.
Or it could be your news, or this. And I just heard some interview with the Pete Buttigieg, and he said, "Look at this terrible stuff that Trump is doing," and okay, that's but he doesn't see it all, like the terrible stuff that Biden had done, or good stuff. I mean, it's just we're so filtered, and part of education, part of, I guess, living well together would be where all of us are trying to always understand that other point of view. What are you seeing? And if I'm trying as hard as I can to understand what you're seeing, okay, well then maybe I can question my own understanding, but also, we could find some way to get them. Certainly, like with my wife or my daughter, that's got to be the way to act. Otherwise, we're
well, it's my pattern versus the other person's pattern. So my algorithm pattern versus the real pattern in life. And I come from a hospitality background, so it's a lot of face to face.
There's that other one, but the customers.
Right.
The customer's always right, say from the customer's point of view.
Right.
You say, well, you're trained, you got to take the customer's point of view if you want this thing to be a success, I think, at least most of the time. So,
it's just, I think we're getting to a place like people like us having this conversation. We understand the like electricity and the powerfulness of this medium, right? But we run into people out there, they're like, oh no, that's not how it is. It's like this. And then they show you this, or they act like what they see. Right. So it is kind of that simple, but it's also that complex at the same time, I think. And hospitality is so important because you are forced in a way. I mean, you're forced now, but you have to incarnate, right? You have to be face to face, right? And you see it over and over and over again, and you see human nature, you see humility. Even while living in a city is important at times. Like, you see a homeless person, you see a person who's not like you, right? And you see them for real. You smell them, you hear them, right? Versus just, abstractly having them in your head, and you don't get to touch the person, right? And I just feel like a Christian world, or somebody who's even trying to follow Christ, or if for the non-Christians here, it has to be real, like you said. So how do we make it real? How do we make it real? Like you were saying, Luke, algorithm versus algorithm. So is that kind of like fire with fire, but or taking the tool and using it for what, like you said, okay, you said demons are sort of controlling it. So is that us taking the reins, taking the controls, and be like, cool, God fill us all things. We're going to do what we're going to do with this algorithm.
I mean, I don't know that you can ever prescribe, because that's the problem with wisdom, right? Or wisdom literature or anything. It's one of the transcendentals, and you can't prescribe it because it's kind of like what Mark was saying. It's all dependent upon the context, like how you apply wisdom. That's what wisdom is. It's the truth applied to a given context, And so, and because everything, like I said at 1.2, referencing the Karen Wong, McGill Chris Green conversation, is everything, even a grace can be transactionalized. That's something that I was thinking, even when you were talking about the homeless, like in a city where there's homeless, Minneapolis, where I live, there's homeless around, but trust me, I mean, you can become blind to the homeless.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they're right there in front of you. You can definitely become blind to them.
For sure. But that's the problem. That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
The decency, like you've already categorized them, otherized them, scapegoated them, and that certainly isn't, I don't think Christ would do that, right? I'm not here to preach, but I don't think that's the way to be. And part of this whole machine thing kind of does that, So.
Well, and that's part of the machine, even the homeless, because that's a general.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
it's kind of like a general approach to me. Like you couldn't live in a modern city and be homeless if you weren't somehow plugged into the machine, because you're reliant on all these systems to even sustain your existence, or you would die. I mean, you wouldn't have food, you wouldn't have anything else. But it's part of the machine. What the homeless really need is to be living in some sort of community with people that can either, because they maybe are doing that voluntarily, but if they're not doing that voluntarily, then they need to be loved by somebody who brings them out of that and who sacrifices, who lets them into their home, who invites them over for a meal. But people don't want to do that either.
No.
This is again one of these data points that I don't know how real they are, but isn't some of these cities like providing the drugs for these people to another wherewithal to stay on the street? It's not bringing them in; it's letting them stay out there. It's
right.
Yeah, that is happening in some cities, as far as I know. But again, I don't know. I know that is information.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't exactly mean the physical government that is a part of it. I meant more of the algorithm, like seeing. Okay, so a younger person or an unknowing person gets a reel about Skid Row, right? I know Skid Row pretty well. I lived pretty close to it for a long time, or long enough. And you get an opinion, right? Okay, so cool. Or you get an opinion about the fentanyl people in Philly or wherever it's at, and it's like, well, now that's kind of got you, and that's kind of like what you were talking about. How okay, maybe it's a demon that has gotten you, and now that has a new story inside of you, and now you're going to go not live that and not see the actual reality. So it's a bit of just deception there, I think.
Well, and even that, like, what I mean is, like, part of that will capture you. This is what I think is really happening.
Capture, yeah.
What really happens with a lot of the online viral stuff or social media or whatever is you'll see all this stuff. Like, so you're watching a bunch of fentanyl addicts online
Mhm.
and it pulls at your heart and you maybe post about it or you say something, and like a
Or
little
you-
bit of that's virtue signaling, a little bit of that's feeling good about it. But like, what is it what's it doing?
Right. Or worse, you're hating them. Yeah.
You know? And when I think what could be a lot better is you could, like Pageau was talking about, you build a garden. You realize food doesn't come from grocery stores. It actually comes from the ground.
Right.
Learn how to garden, learn how to have kids, go volunteer somewhere, go to church, help at a local, I don't know, food shelf or community thing or something, like that's doing something rather than just posting about it virtually.
Right. And it's not in your head, and it's not the Bible or the book or whatever. It's out there. It's truth, reality, experience. Right. So it has to be made real. And I think it's so important. It's, it's landing the plane. And you were talking about fighting. And you were talking about MMA. Was that today?
Oh, I brought it up because I know Pageau, I haven't watched it yet, but I know Matthieu is interested in MMA, and I do follow MMA. That's one of I have some sort of indirect pleasure from that. I grew up wrestling, but I'm a theoretical pacifist now, but I watch MMA, so go figure.
Right. And just so pain avoidance, right? The algorithm is a bit of a sedative, right? Social media is a bit of a sedative to not engage and to pretend that you're engaging. So you don't have to get hit in the face, right? And you don't have to get your heart broke. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do that. But it's the bumper sticker. It's the bumper sticker patriot or the bumper sticker guy, but even another degraded version of that. And it's all just in your head, right? And that's kind of how we get to 2025, it looks like. And I feel like what you guys are doing is, and just that comment, I love that algorithm, fighting the algorithm with the algorithm is like, okay, cool. If Christ fill us all things, if God is in all things, then it's his internet too, right? So let's get in there and play, and let's break the fourth wall and let's talk about it. I think it's great. I love it. I feel like it's
all right. I'm gonna Alan's back. I'm gonna give my last word, and then we'll go around and give some last words because I'm gonna get after some stuff. I'm gonna go,
incarnate.
So how I think so personalist knowledge and culture, and like Sam's last video, and what I see the TLC as is a place to hopefully meaningfully talk about ideas in a way and practice conversational hospitality virtually. It's basically, this is like the proto estuary, which is happening in real life, which is more of an embodied thing where people come and gather and then they go back and they live their lives and they create and they procreate. And so that's what this is meant to be. It's not just like performative pretend engagement, or what TLC is pretend engagement. I don't think it is that. And to some degree it's not, and it's limited a little bit by Dunbar numbers and stuff, because I would say like Matt and Ira, I know you much less than Alan. Like Alan and I the other day had, I don't know, like a couple hour phone call, but I know Alan, and I've met Alan in real life when I went to New York. But I know Alan less than I know, Sam or other people I've hung out with more in the corner, or local estuary guys, and much less than my family. So it's all degrees, but and there's only so much I can engage with you guys, but it is meaningful for me and it has helped me to some degree. Otherwise I wouldn't be here,
And just to add,
Go ahead, Alan. Yeah.
well, just on that point, that's why I always walk into movie theaters and I tell everybody, guys, this is all pretend. Superman's not actually saving a city. Guys, you can leave. There's no, don't worry. This Metropolis is a fake city that someone it's like, yeah, it's not like, what do you, as pretend, it's like, pretend is also embodiment. It's like, do you go up to little kids and being like, you're not actually Zorro, you idiot. That's a stick, not a sword in your hand, dummy. So,
when little kids, you're like sword fighting or they're playing or they're practicing, I'm just like, listen, idiots, not real.
Fake,
Stop it.
fake news. They aren't actually sword fighting. It turns out they're just playing with sticks. Ugly business. They're playing pretend.
Yeah.
It's a good trout.
That's not a
Nasty
sword,
people.
idiot.
Everybody's Trump now. Just the one thing I would add, I guess, thinking my lived experience for most of my adult life. Well, now it's almost 18 years of marriage. Before that, I spent 5-6 nights a week in my local pub and reading books, talking to people. And so that's kind of what, to me, the TCL is, you hear people just talking, and,
Yeah.
of course, half of them are knuckleheads and idiots, perhaps, but you still
Hospitality.
learn from knuckleheads and idiots. I mean, because they're living something, and maybe they're just negative examples.
It's a
So,
virtual pub with some,
yeah.
with an open
So
mic.
you take, PVK and his randos, yeah. I mean, I remember, I think, Luke, your first time on a rando, and Alan and Karen and a lot of them. I mean,
Mhm.
they really are. I mean, I see he's playing them all over again. I don't know if I can go through all that, but they really, that's to me is what it is.
And the randos is the heart of it. Like, this has
Yeah.
been the live streams where we're talking about ideas or whatever is an emergent part of it. But then I also have group chats of people where we talk about more personal things, where we just play and make jokes and do things. But the randos, people's testimonies, their life stories, then people resonating with that and making friendships has always been the heart of the TLC. This isn't an ideological
And that's
political
just
thing.
about the same overlap Venn diagram of a great pub.
Yeah.
Add the beer, and then a few other bad nights, but generally that's
We
what
do
it
that
is.
at conferences. We add in the beer.
Yeah.
That's great. That's a great analogy. All right. Matt, why don't you go next?
In a bar, to go off your Ira, in a bar, shoulder to shoulder. A bar can be a church, man. I've
Yeah.
said that many, many times. It's maybe not the church, but it is pretty close. So hospitality good, digital hospitality good, and yeah, you guys are making it real, and I want to keep making it real. It's cool.
Sweet. Thanks, buddy. Okay, Alan, close us out.
The intense wisdom.
Make it good. Make it good.
No, it's like people also need. I mean, I don't know if this is the correct use of the word, but the imaginal of like, what even are you? Oh, are you just there to fulfill your needs of like, oh, great, I have on-demand weed and video games, and I have a roof over my head. Like, oh, I'm living better than King Henry VIII just in my little apartment. It's just like, okay, is that the thing you're meant to be? Okay, if that's what you think, that's fine. But you might just one day watch a movie and see someone act heroically in a fictional movie and be like, I was not meant to masturbate and, smoke weed and sit in my apartment and collect unemployment and work as a, barista for 4 hours a week. It's like there's a call and that has to be nurtured and that has to be explored. And, that's why we read kids' stories. And, it's just like, this is all part of that. Is it real? Is it fake? Is MMA real? The freaking guys are hugging afterwards. Is it real? Is it fake?
Is it
Did
a
he
real
kick him in the
fight?
face?
Yeah.
Is it a real fight or a fake fight? It's like, what the hell? These guys are best friends and they're fighting. Like, sometimes they're even laughing in the ring at each other. They're like, oh, I know what you're doing here. Oh, ha ha ha. I'm like having a little repartee. So is it real? Is it fake? It's like, it's like this is what we're doing here, and it's in a way that I think we can do it. We can embody it. It's like, we can't just run out and be like, I will be the greatest person to ever live right now, or like I'll just live in a barrel and eat drink from a puddle and care about nothing right now. It's like, no, you need the process of becoming and unfolding. So it's like, yeah, it's like that's what's happening here in a friendly way. And if it helps people, and I think it has helped people, like, all you can do is like take the next baby step.
Right. Can we pretend to disagree at least ever? Yeah, we disagree all the time. That's what we have been. I highlight all the people that disagree with me, like you and Nico. And I mean, there's tons of people that disagree, and they're part of the group. That's part of the whole shtick. That's but like I was saying earlier, I'm gonna give myself the last word. Sorry. We have some implicit cultural religio that's holding us together, because people that actually disagree don't talk to each other. They don't engage. They aren't bodied together. That's real, full, incarnational disagreement, is not being together. So, yeah,
Yep.
we do that. All right. Thank you guys for coming. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Until next time, see y'all.
Yeah.
Meow, meow, kitties.